The Black Army of Hungary was one of the best hired armies of the late Middle Ages. When Hungary was continually under threat from the north, south, and west, the King of Hungary found what he needed in the Black Army, a combat force with strong discipline and loyalty. In this video, we look at how modern historians present the tale of the Black Army of Hungary. In the 15th century, Hungary confronted a new dilemma. The Ottoman Empire had been becoming stronger ever since it first appeared in history. Slowly, it began to threaten numerous countries in Europe during the 14th and 15th centuries. In most key conflicts during these years, the Hungarians often lost. For example, at the Battle of Varna in 1444, a European party tried to block the Ottomans from pushing into the Balkans, but failed. Just 4 years later, in 1448, at the Second Battle of Kosovo, a Hungarian-led army tried to extract revenge for Varna, but the Ottomans won again. One last impediment in the Ottomans' approach to the west was the city walls of Constantinople until 1453. These walls stopped the burgeoning empire, but then Mehmed II conquered the city. The remaining part of the Eastern Roman Empire vanished. After then, the Ottomans took even more dominance over the Balkans. The road into Europe was now wide open. Their next targets were the Venetians and the kingdoms in the Balkans, notably Hungary. Now, Hungary was under constant military pressure from the Ottomans.
In general, the conflicts between Hungary and the Ottomans didn't frequently feature significant engagements. There were a few large fights and sieges, but historian Colin Im, an expert on the Ottoman Empire, says the Ottomans mainly fought tiny and continuing battles throughout the Balkans. The term Little War indicates tiny everyday military actions that happened in places along the borders or adjacent to battles and sieges. We talked more about these tiny wars in another video posted in the top right corner. In these Hungarian-Ottoman battles, the Ottomans generally deployed local irregular warriors to raid towns and villages, seizing property and capturing individuals to sell as slaves. These invasions were enormously beneficial for the Ottoman frontier leaders, since they might take thousands of prisoners. So the term Little War shouldn't be taken lightly. These attacks were a severe threat to Hungary, since they slowly eroded its population and money. Historian Thomas Paulus-Faldi writes that realizing how hazardous this was, the Hungarian government made military reforms to remedy the problem. Hungary set up a few defenses, a zone of tiny buffer states, a line of border forts, better levees, elevated banks to regulate water, and more focus on light cavalry. The need to respond to these Ottoman incursions also led to the founding of the Black Army. The Black Army wasn't solely founded because of the Ottomans. In 1458, Matthias Corvinus became King of Hungary. In Latin, he was known as Matthias Corvinus, which translates Matthias the Raven in English. He faced severe issues in the south. The Ottomans were still a serious menace. In the north, a party of Hussite mercenaries, principally Czechs and Moravians, were assaulting sections of northern Hungary. The name Hussite refers to supporters of Jan Hus, a religious reformer who stood up to the Catholic Church, which led to the Hussite Wars in the middle of the 15th century. We also prepared a video on this. Check the link in the top right corner. Even though the Hussites had passed their zenith, some of their warriors were still stealing Matthias's lands. Matthias's third challenge was from certain prominent nobles who opposed him and backed the Habsburg ruler Frederick III as king. Frederick had claimed the Hungarian crown, and worse for Matthias, he actually had the real crown of St. Stephen, which Władysław's mother, Elizabeth of Luxembourg, had given to him. Without the crown, Matthias couldn't fully show he was the lawful king. Frederick III didn't want to give up the crown and preserved it as a powerful bargaining tool. So Matthias had three key goals as king. First, he had to receive the genuine crown of Hungary to be legitimately crowned. Second, he needed to defeat the Hussites in Upper Hungary. Third, he wished to keep the Ottomans away from his dominion. To execute all this, he needed a stronger and more dependable army than Hungary's typical soldiers. That's where the Black Army came in. Back then, Hungary's military depended on nobility to bring their own warriors, dubbed the Pandor system. Also, nobles had to furnish one mounted archer for every 20 peasant farms, called the militia portalis. Some changes were later made to this arrangement, but it essentially stayed in place under Matthias. However, Matthias needed a professional army he could always bank on. He needed well-trained warriors like those who fought in the Hussite wars, but regrettably, they were fighting against him. Their leader, Jan Zsuzsa, supported Frederick III instead. Meanwhile, the Ottomans were gaining control of southern areas. Matthias decided to abandon the peace discussions with Frederick III and offered him and Zsuzsa a considerable amount of money. In return, he gained the crown he dearly needed and the support of Zsuzsa and his mercenaries. Though it cost a lot, this helped settle problems in Upper Hungary. These former raiders became the first members of what would become Matthias's hired army, the Black Army. But the Black Army didn't start all at once. It expanded and developed over the years.
Thomas Pelliffis thinks it only actually became a permanent institution in the 1470s, with its size shifting according on the campaign. The moniker Black Army didn't arise until after the army was gone, and we don't know for sure what it meant. Some believe it came from a legendary leader called John the Black Haugwitz. Others claim it's because of their black armor, but most researchers disagree with that concept, as King Matthias himself mentioned in a letter to the Bishop of Ager that the army wasn't uniform in how it appeared or was built up. Even while the letter doesn't tell us why the army was dubbed black, it gives us a lot of facts about the army itself. Matthias boasted it had both heavy and light cavalry, experienced gunners, and footmen. The soldiers came from many diverse backgrounds, at first predominantly Czechs, Moravians, Poles, and Germans. Later, Hungarians joined also. The footmen were separated into regular and armored infantry. The armored ones were nicknamed armati, which means armed in Latin. Both types undoubtedly used weapons, including spears, pikes, and halberds. The armati were aided by the clipati, who were shield bearers bearing huge shields fashionable at the time. Matthias said they would make a circle that looked like a fork, and they fought from behind it like a moving wall. This permitted combatants with shorter weapons to go out and return safely, and the same for archers, crossbowmen, and gunners. This layout reminded people of the Hussite Wagen Fort or the Swiss Pike Square. But unlike them, the Black Army didn't depend heavily on war wagons. Their configuration was a blend of Eastern and Western pike tactics and moving together. Today, such a shield circle isn't very useful anymore when it comes to fighting the Ottomans. The largest change during Matthias's administration was the rise of light cavalry called hussars. They carried bows, crossbows, lances, shields, and sabers. They were modeled by older cavalry types in the Balkans and inspired by Ottoman cavalry. Some say this style started in Serbia, but that's still debatable. Hungary needed these light cavalry regiments to raid and fight back along the southern border.
Even in bigger engagements like Bradfield, both sides largely deployed cavalry. In another letter, Matthias reported his army had roughly 20,000 cavalry and barely 8,000 infantry. That might surprise folks, since many incorrectly believe the Black Army was largely foot soldiers. But policy argues this is definitely not true anymore. Of course, soldiers played a significant role, especially in the north and west, and in guarding castles along the south. This chain of forts, from Seed to Belgrade, was the backbone of Hungary's defense. Some were built earlier, but were improved and utilized for both raids and huge battles. Infantry was vital in sieges, but rarely engaged in great engagements on the southern front. Two big examples are the sieges of Yaitse in 1463 and Sabac in 1475. Still, soldiers saw greater combat in the north and west, where battle with Frederick III had started again. There, they generally did sieges and little attacks. Policy explains the shortage of infantry on the Ottoman front was needed because the king didn't want to engage a huge battle with the full Ottoman army. The Ottoman frontier soldiers likewise largely used light cavalry. Despite all his efforts, Matthias couldn't beat the Ottomans alone, and support from Europe and the Pope was modest. Knowing this, he focused more on fighting his adversaries in the north and west, and he succeeded. The Black Army even invaded Vienna in 1485 with 17 siege cannons, 2 siege towers, and a powerful infantry onslaught. They captured the city. Unlike the Ottomans, later the Black Army actually conquered Vienna. Matthias lived there till he died. His aim to avert a great battle with the Ottomans worked successfully when Muhammad II died in 1481. His son Bayezid II wasn't as keen in battling Hungary.
Our forces are exhausted. We must wait for spring.
Still, the Ottoman frontier chiefs kept assaulting Hungary.
To arms! The raiders are here!
So Matthias had to keep his southern defenses solid. Along with the Black Force in the north, Hungary also paid another force for the south. Plus, they could raise the Banderial force when needed. That means Hungary had 3 armies, most of them active full-time. In the end, the large cost proved too much. Thomas Palissy sums it up. Since even the richest kingdom, France, had only recently started forming a full-time army in the late 1400s, and Venice shunned it for money reasons, Matthias's military activity was well ahead of its time. But the cost of sustaining 3 full-time armies, notably the Black Army, became a key reason why Hungary crumbled when Matthias died. The country just couldn't afford the Black Army anymore. It was disbanded shortly after Matthias Corvinus died in 1490. Thanks for viewing, and thanks to our customers for supporting the channel. Want to join them? Find the links in the description box below.